All right, everybody, back by popular demand, of course, our friend and fellow co-host on The First, as well as host of the Jesse Kelly Show. Jesse Kelly is with us now. He has been getting into some naughty stuff online to upset the liberals. Mr. Kelly, welcome back.
Well, I don't see how it's naughty, Buck. We are out here and we're going to try to right the wrongs of racism in this country. And there's no older institution that is built on the blood of black slaves than universities like Yale and Brown and Duke and Rice and several others. And I will not rest until these names have been torn off the walls and these buildings either razed to the ground or turned into low-income housing.
So, Jesse, tell everybody how this all got started. You have a plan here to get Yale canceled, but you've now expanded. And Yale, I've been mentioning this for a while on the show. In fact, I brought this up some years ago that if we're going to do this whole cancellation thing because of ties to slavery, Elihu Yale, the founder of Yale, was a slave trader. And there are others as well that have come up that are names, as you point out, very highly revered on the left. And so you got Cancel Yale trending on Twitter over the weekend. How is this going so far?
Well, it's going very well. I'm glad people look. What we need right now is the country to come together, Buck. What we really need is more bipartisanship. You know, they love to talk about bipartisanship, and this is something people on the left and the right should agree on. The truth of the matter is this: everybody who has a Yale diploma on their wall, everybody who's worn a Yale shirt, everyone who's graduated from there, everyone who talks about Yale, everyone who has Yale in their bio line on their social media account is out there promoting the name of a man who was a slave trader. There's no other way around that. If you're going to tear down the statues of Robert E. Lee, Robert E. Lee didn't have any slaves. Elihu Yale had lots of them. The truth is, Yale, the university itself, should change its name, become an all-black college, and disperse its $30 billion endowment to black people as reparations.
I'm just wondering, has anyone in Brown University, also the founders of Brown University were slave traders? I want to know, has anyone on the left reached out to you, either publicly or in private, and said, you know what, Jesse, you're right. We do need to cancel Yale. Let's get this thing going.
Publicly, no. Privately, and I'm not allowed to say who these people are, yes, that they think, one, they see what I'm doing, two, they said it was hilarious, and three, they actually say they're totally with me on this, even if they disagree with my motivations for doing so. Let's get these names of slave owners and slave traders completely removed from our society. And maybe in so doing, we can punish the people who are responsible for the fact we now have generations of Americans who hate America. That's where people learn this. So turnabout's fair play.
And, you know, I'm here in New York, and the Duke of York, before he ascended to the throne in England, was involved in the founding of the Royal Africa Company, which had effectively a monopoly in British trade from West Africa, which included, you know, gold, gems, ivory tusks, and yes, African slaves. So doesn't New York State also have to then change its name under the new rules? I mean, to your point, Jesse, you're right. These are the rules. So why shouldn't everyone live under the rules?
These are the rules. And Buck, I am sorry to say it, man, it's not just New York State. It's any business that has New York in its title. Let's be honest. There's nobody who's been trying to lead on the issues of race than the New York Times. I mean, they've been number one on this. The New York Times must change its name. Every single print edition of the New York Times, every tweet, everything they put out there that has the name New York in it is celebrating the name of a slave trader. And that's absolutely true. And until we stop that practice, we will never truly be free.
Yes, if they're so excellent at journalism, calling themselves the Midtown Manhattan Tribune seems like it's a completely legitimate compromise under the circumstances. In fact, Jesse, if they won't do this, just as if Yale does not change its name, wouldn't we have to ask about their commitment to the cause of diversity and inclusion and facing up to our past and the inequities and the immorality of slavery? I mean, aren't they then suspect? Maybe they have a little bit of an affinity here for some causes and beliefs that we're just unearthing now.
I'm starting to have serious concerns that maybe These people on the left aren't genuine about race relations. Maybe they just hate America and want to rip it apart. I certainly don't want to accuse anybody of that. But if you can print the New York Times, but you have to tear down Robert E. Lee, what else am I supposed to think, Buck? We have Hillary Clinton, who not only went to slave trade state, I'm talking about Yale, we have Hillary Clinton, who has since returned to Yale to give speeches there. This lady is standing on the backs of dead black slaves, giving speeches at Yale University. I don't know if she's serious about race relations in America.
Speaking of Jesse Kelly, host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly on The First, and also host of the Jesse Kelly Show on radio. Jesse, has anyone on the left tried to confront you on this and make a case as to why you're wrong? Because I have to say, I can't even think of what a defense based upon, as you point out, the rules as they are now established and being forced upon all the rest of us. I can't even think of what the opposition could to this movement to cancel Yale, to cancel Brown University, to cancel New York, to cancel the New York Times name. I can't even think of what their good faith argument would be other than, oh, no, we like this because we benefit from this name. Is there another argument?
The only argument I've seen, Buck, from this side is they'll do this thing where I got this one today, where Brown University actually put out a report examining its own racist history. And that's what they'll say. They'll put out a report. Well, wait a minute. Everybody knows the Confederacy was fighting against slavery. We have our report there. We have the report knowing the Confederacy was fighting for slaves. So why do we have to then remove Confederate generals? A report is not good enough. The rules are, as we currently stand, if you were involved in slavery, and some of these people were heavily involved, your likeness, your name must be completely removed from the public square in every possible way. Those are the rules. I did not make these rules. I certainly would never have made these rules. But if that's what we've got to do, then that's what we've got to do. So it's time to burn down the American university system.
Do you think that this is the only way that we can, other than by refusing to bend a knee to the mob, that we can start to effectively fight back in a cultural sense about this? You know, effectively meaning that we have to turn cancel culture on itself, that the cancelers have to become the cancelees.
The truth is, Buck, that we like to comfort ourselves with the saying of we're the silent majority. We are absolutely not. Numbers wise, we may be. The left owns the pillars of power in the United States of America, all of them. We even have a Republican president. He's been completely hemmed in with 100% bogus investigations for the first 3 years of his presidency. We're not losing the culture war. We've lost it. We've lost it. We are now the rebel guerrilla force in the United States of America, and therefore we must conduct our battles the same way a guerrilla force does, and that is using the enemy's weapons against him. It is our only choice. That's the bad news. The good news is it's a lot of fun.
Well, General Jesse Kelly, what comes next in this war of attrition against the left?
Well, once we have taken care of the American university system, the truth of the matter is this: we're going to have to set our sights on corporate America. Corporate America has been very loud about how not racist they are recently, about how woke they are. And so I think once we've taken care of the university system, we will find out these corporations, do a little digging and find out really where they come from too.
Jesse Kelly got cancel Yale, the trend nationally on Twitter, everybody. He wants the left to live by its own rules. You should listen to what Jesse's got to say on the Jesse Kelly Show. Jesse, thanks so much, man.
Be good, brother.
Working from home is driving up the worst type of cybercrime, home title theft. We're doing it all from home these days: working, banking, video conferences, meal deliveries, and shopping. Cybercriminals are targeting our homes. Actually, they want the money they can get by taking out loans against your home. The crime is home title theft, and the FBI is warning homeowners about it all over the place. Home Title Lock is how you protect your home from cyber thieves. Your home's legal title is online, where they can find it and forge your signature stating you sold your home to them. Then they'll take out loans on your home and leave you in debt. Banks, insurance, and basic identity theft services don't protect you. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. Protect your home now. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. and use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection to help you through this crisis. That's code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com. Again, code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com. I want to introduce this audience to a new voice from down in Texas, one of our absolute favorite states in this wonderful country. We have with us now Will Douglas. He is a Dallas businessman who is challenging incumbent Democrat Retta Bowers for a seat on Texas's 113th district. Good to have you all, Mr. Will. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Buck. Thanks for having me on this afternoon.
So you're running for a seat that's East Dallas and going out a little bit into the countryside. First, I want to ask you, we're getting a lot of national press attention on what's going on with Texas with COVID-19 and the reopening. What can you tell us about things? I mean, is this some fear-mongering from the Democrat left, or are you particularly worried about how things are going in Texas and more specifically in the Dallas area?
Well, first of all, I think Governor Abbott's done an incredible job here in Texas. We've really straddled the line on making sure that we're keeping people safe, and at the same time making sure that businesses are able to open back up and keep our economy going as strong as we possibly can. I think the spikes that you're seeing recently, a lot of them are younger people, and as we know, as restaurants and bars open back up, younger people were the ones who were going into those establishments, and they're also the ones that are less likely to be impacted by systemic COVID. So they're asymptomatic. They're all wandering around, going into places, and they're less likely to die from it. So naturally, there's going to be increases as things open back up.
And have you seen an influx into the Dallas area? Because I talk on this show fairly regularly about how in New York, you had 400,000 people who have left the city since the start of COVID, and many of them are saying they're not planning on coming back. They're trying to enroll their kids in schools outside of New York City, where I'm currently doing this show. People are going to Texas. They're going to Florida. They're moving out of this state. Have you seen some of that influx yet in the Dallas area, or has it not really hit? I know it's hit Austin.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet due to, their reasoning being from COVID, but I know it's coming, and I can't blame them. Why would you not? Texas, I guess we have a reputation as a flyover state, but I think Texas is the future of this country. You look at what Texas has built here. I mean, we're a bastion of free market enterprise. I moved here from Oklahoma 7 years ago with nothing in my pocket except student loan debt and some fire in my belly. And there's plenty of opportunities here. And, you come here, you work hard, you do the right things, you can live the American dream. And that's why I'm running. It's important for me that Texas stays red, and the strong Republican leadership that has built this incredible state. We have to keep it. Buck, one of the reasons I'm running is I tried to do business in New York, in Manhattan. I tried to acquire a pharmacy up there. And y'all make it really hard on small businesses. Really tough to get small businesses off the ground. And I don't want to see Texas become
Will,
that.
we are excellent. We are excellent in New York City at crushing ingenuity, free enterprise, and the operating of the free market. That's really where New York City particularly does a great job, and really, really high taxes. So there's that too.
Yeah.
But if you're a huge corporation and you're connected, then you're in good shape. So those folks can be very, very happy about that. I mean, I just want to ask you, Will, before we let you get back to running for your seat down in Texas, east of Dallas, 113th congressional district. So tell me this: what are you going to do, and what's the top priority if you beat the liberal incumbent in that seat?
Well, had you asked me that 6 months ago, I would have said, the focus would be on small business, the focus would be on education, on crime in that district. But now, post-COVID, the most important thing is jobs. I mean, we've got 2 to 3 million Texans without a job, and if a politician tells you that anything else is more important than jobs in the economy, I think they're lying to you. And so that's why it's more important than ever for our state to have as many representatives with small business experience as possible. I'm a small business owner. I have, multiple employees. I had to file for PPP loans. I know firsthand what small business owners have gone through these last several months, and I have an idea of what it's going to take to get our economy roaring back and thriving again.
Will Douglas, everybody, running for Congress down in the Dallas area. Will, best of luck. We hope you come out on top, and we hope you'll come back on the show and tell us what your plans are once you do.
Absolutely. Thanks, Buck. I appreciate it.
All right, so you're seeing so much of this national reporting on the COVID situation. I just want to tell you, it couldn't be more clear that they are drilling down specifically on Texas and Florida and saying that look at what's going on here. Oh my gosh, these reckless. Florida's not even a pure red state. Obviously, it's a bit of a purple state, trending red. But look at what they've got, a Republican governor, and they've managed to beat the odds here. Somehow, the bad guys in this story, when you look at leadership, are Governor Abbott of Texas and the governor of Florida, DeSantis, and really Governor Cuomo here in New York gets a pass. Why? Because he's a Democrat. He's now saying that he blames the federal government because the federal government didn't focus on COVID coming from Europe. The focus was on it coming from China, which he says was wrong, which is not true, of course. It was from China to Europe, then to the United States. But there are a whole bunch of very obvious political reasons why he has shifted that focus. But I keep looking at the numbers, and we had, at worst, over the course of a week, about a 4% incline in cases nationwide. Hospitalizations for COVID, for serious COVID cases, and deaths from COVID are way down and continuing to trend down. Do not believe the fearmongers out there. Do not believe the people that will clearly benefit from trying to turn this into something that it's, into yet again, lockdown 2.0, to turn this into, oh my gosh, we've underestimated this. Where is your mask? Why aren't you wearing masks out in public? Well, because in open air, masks are effectively irrelevant. There's no reason that we should be forced to wear masks in sunshine, in the open, not in dense proximity to people, and indoors. But this has become very, very political. It's also why there was such a focus on whether people were wearing masks at the Trump rally. Young people, we have data now. We did not have data in the beginning the way we do now, the beginning of the pandemic. The data tells us that young people, meaning people under 40, are at very low risk. People under 20 are at effectively no risk. So if you're 19, you want to be careful that you don't get COVID and give it to grandma or grandpa, but your risk from COVID is almost zero, which brings us back to the early days of the spring break situation with COVID-19, where they were making fun of these spring breakers for not staying locked at home and everything else. Turns out they weren't really at high risk. And as long as they're careful about who they're around from the high risk population, you can certainly make a case that they should be able to live their lives again. But you see, the left hasn't made this transition. People who are reasonable and look at the data understand that we can't keep doing the lockdown. And that has been from the beginning, let's not let the cure be worse than the disease. Trump said it. This goes back to Easter. I mean, this goes back for months now. But the left hasn't been willing to make this concession and say, look, no matter what, we should not lock down again the way that we have. No matter what. We can't do this. We can't put society through this. Given what we know about this disease and the lethality and the risks from it, it would be reckless and irresponsible to lock down again, even if there is a spike in some places, even if it trends up in some places. You're putting so much pressure on society, and it's wrong. It's wrong that the government is making stupid decisions around this. And we cannot allow them to suspend the Constitution, suspend our rights, suspend free enterprise, and huge sectors of the economy, because ultimately this is about shutting down now so that Trump can't win the election in the fall. They'll pretend that it's all about saving lives, but if you look at the national media giving Cuomo a pass on all this, it's not about lives, it's about beating Trump, just like so much else that we see. All right, roll call time, everybody. And as you know, we don't have producer Mark in this week. He is off for the week. So if there's any, weird things that happen on the show, any weird sounds, if I forget what day it is or something like that, Mark's not here. Producer Brandon, though, is keeping the house in order. But just so you know, we're kind of doing things a little differently right now. And let's get to it. Sarah is the first up. Hey, Buck, thanks so much for your call for wartime conservatives. I wanted to share what has recently happened in Washington state. Our far-left state legislature passed a partisan middle-of-the-night bill that requires all K-12 schools to teach comprehensive sex ed, approved curricula largely provided by Planned Parenthood. The people of Washington rose up against this lunacy. We began collecting signatures to put this bill before the voters in November. We needed 130,000 signatures to do so. In the middle of the pandemic lockdown, we rose up and collected a historic number of signatures, 266,000, over twice what was needed and the highest number of signatures ever collected on any piece of legislation, and virtually zero coverage from the press, not a peep. Awake, Christians and conservatives. Time to get busy and take our country back. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Well, Sarah, thank you. And you keep up the good work. Look at this.
Well, I don't
Getting
I don't
signatures,
see how
taking
it's not,
action,
dude.
gathering together.
We are out here and we're
having
gonna try
your
to right the
voices
wrongs
heard
of
on an
racism
issue
in
like this.
country.
Yeah, I don't even know what
There's
this
no older
sex ed curriculum is,
institution
but
that is built on the blood
K
of
through
black
12
slaves
schools,
and
first thought,
universities
I would
like
want to know
Yale
at
and
what
Brown
age do they
and Duke
start
and
this sex ed
Rice
teaching,
and several others,
and I would
will
want to know
not rest
what they
until these
are
names have
teaching,
been torn
and
off
I'm
the
sure
walls and these
it's
buildings
a lot
either
of stuff
razed
that
to the
people would
ground
find
or
pretty
turned into
objectionable.
low-income housing.
Remember this, for those who are wondering what the real implications are of that Supreme Court decision from last week written by Gorsuch, selling out constitutional conservatism so he doesn't have to be the bad guy on trans equality and trans rights and the LGBTQ plus agenda. I believe that is the full acronym of the movement. But what Gorsuch did means that you're going to see a lot more aggressive teaching, and some would argue brainwashing, of very young people into the belief that you remember it's now it's not a belief anymore. Now it's a civil rights issue because of the Supreme Court decision. Hasn't been dealt with by the state legislatures. Has not been allowed to be voted on. No. Someone who decides without any physical or biological basis for it, just because they feel. Someone who decides that they are a different gender is now to be, as a matter of law, treated and even spoken to as if they were that gender or else. You can imagine what they're going to be teaching your kids. And anyone who brings up the science, I thought we liked science, right? I thought the left was all about it. Anyone who brings up the science on this and, for example, points to the contagion that occurs among young people when there's one 12-year-old who decides that, let's say, he is transgender, then there all of a sudden are other 11 and 12-year-olds who decide that they are transgender. And statistically, it is not possible that this is just a pocket of transgenderism that has been discovered. This is a psychological contagion effect that happens where people who are very young and impressionable say, oh, that person is now getting a lot of attention, and they're all of a sudden very important to a whole bunch of adults around them. Maybe I am too, or even if it's as simple as that person has certain feelings. I have those feelings sometimes too. But I'm not going to wait for puberty and for growth and for maturity. I'm going to make a decision now about puberty blockers and hormone therapy and perhaps even relatively soon radical surgery that will affect me for the rest of my life. And don't expect anyone to present you with the truth about the happiness of those who have gender, what is now called gender affirmation surgery, when it is at a minimum gender transition surgery, okay? They call it affirmation. This is a political trick. It's gender transition. And if you look at the happiness or lack thereof of people long-term who have that surgery, the data is quite clear, but the data cannot be allowed to interfere with an important political narrative. And as we know, the LGBTQ plus agenda is essential to the left. There can
These
be
are the
no
rules. And Buck,
challenging
I'm sorry
it.
to say it,
And
man,
now,
it's
as a
not just
function
New
of
York
law,
State.
you risk
It's
your
any
career, you
business
risk
that
your
has
money, you
New
risk
York in its title.
so
Let's be
much
honest,
if
there's
you try to
nobody who's
challenge
been
it
trying
openly.
to
As I've said,
lead on
now,
the issues
now
of-
we're at a point
of
where
race
you better
in the
call
New York
someone
Times. I mean,
who
they've
was a
been-
he,
they've been
not
number
just a
one on
she,
this.
but
The New
maybe
York Times
Z
must
or
change its
they.
name. Every
That's right, plural
single
pronouns
print
for
edition of
individuals.
the
You're
New
going to
York
have to do this in the
Times,
workplace
every tweet,
or else.
everything they put
And you're
out
not going to
there
be
that has
you're not
the
going to be
name
viewed as a
New York in
hero.
it is
You're going to be one
celebrating
lone
the
voice the
name
media
of a slave
destroys.
trader, and
You will
that's
be
absolutely
charging the
true.
machine gun
Until we
nests, my
stop that
friends, without a
practice,
plan
we will
to
never
take
truly
it.
be free.
So don't do it. I had a friend recently ask me, his company is coming under pressure from Black Lives Matter activists. And he said, what do you think I should do? And I said, I don't want your company to get in. I don't want you to be boycott or something. If this is not something where you're comfortable, if you don't have the ability right now to comfortably take that stand and don't get crushed to just be another example the left uses. Not everyone should be in the fight. Everyone should be in the fight in the ways that they can that are sensible, but don't sacrifice yourself to the mob for no reason. That does no one any good.
Buck,
I know there's complexity here. It's very easy. People say, get in the fight, do it.
The left aren't genuine about race relations.
Be savvy
Maybe
about it.
They just hate America and want to rip it
but
apart.
look, see, Sarah's writing in from Washington, and she's telling us about an instance where they took public action, they were savvy, and they won the fight.
We have Hillary Clinton,
or they're winning the fight.
Not only went to slave trade state.
So
I'm talking about
that's how you got to do it.
We have Hillary Clinton who is
Ryan, Buck, God willing, after Trump wins a second term, is it time for him to pursue expanding the Supreme Court? After the DACA ruling, I can't see any harm in the pursuit. The court has to be fixed somehow. At the very least, it puts the left on record arguing against it. My shield has been taken away by those who are supposed to hold it high. Ryan, I don't think that the answer from our side should be court packing. Because that's what the left always says they want to do when they don't get their way. So effectively, once you open that door, the left will do it. They'll do it even more. I don't have a good answer for you, though, about how do we deal with the fact that the left gets judges that are activist, leftist, Democrats, and they are entirely reliable. You get a Democrat put forward a left-wing judge, guess what? That judge is going to give you what you need on the big cases 99 times out of, oh no, really 100 times out of 100. With conservatives like Roberts and Gorsuch, oh my.
The only argument I've seen,
more like a 50-50 proposition on any case.
Do this thing where
conservatives and constitutionalism are involved, right? It's a 50-50 proposition.
Well, wait a minute.
The best judge currently the two best judges currently on the Supreme Court are Clarence Thomas and Alito.
We have the report knowing the
they're the two best right now. They're the two that are principled and stalwarts, and they keep it real.
The rules are.
Everybody else on that court, I mean, Kavanaugh's okay. He's been pretty good so far.
People were heavily involved.
But not great.
Likeness, your name
on process, though, he at least is willing to say the left is insane and making it up as they go along. Like Kavanaugh will say, you're just pretending words have no meaning because you want a certain thing. That's not okay. Even if I like the thing that you're trying to achieve with that. That's the Kavanaugh position. But he at least believes in the law is a thing. I mean, the left is just like, whatever we want, let's do it. And Roberts goes along with it. And even Gorsuch will go along with it. So no, Ryan, I don't think that court packing is the answer. But if you're saying, Buck, what is the answer? I don't have it right now. I don't think anybody does.
The truth is, Buck, that we like to comfort ourselves with the saying of we're the silent majority. We are absolutely not. Numbers-wise, we may
Matthew,
be. The left owns
Buck,
the
you're
pillars
awesome.
of power in the
You
United
never missed
States
the
of
show.
America, all of them.
The other day, you had an email that said
Republican
Gorsuch had an
president
ulterior
completely
motive for his
100%
ruling to
bogus
define sex.
investigations
You
for the
asked how
first
that
years
would
of
ever
his
come up.
presidency.
I think there'll be
We're not
tons of
losing the
lawsuits in the
culture war.
coming
We've
months.
lost it. The
The biggest one that comes to mind is the recent law passed in Idaho that bans transgender athletes from competing in sports opposite their biological gender. Now, I don't think Gorsuch thought many steps ahead to plan this, but it is a certainty that case will eventually get to SCOTUS, and in order to settle it, they will have to make a ruling on the definition of sex. Stay safe in New York. Keep the fight. Shields high. Matthew, I'm familiar with this. I believe the Department of Justice under Barr has said that they will defend
care of the American university system. The truth of the
ban
matter
on the
is this, we're
transgender
going to have
athletes
to
in
set our
Idaho.
sights on
But this is a
corporate America.
very good
Corporate
example of
America's been
just
very
how
loud.
aggressive and how
They're
fast
very
the left
loud about
moves
how
on
not
these
racist
issues.
they are recently,
And how it
about
starts with
woke
something
they
that
are.
sounds
So I think
somewhat
once we've taken care
reasonable
of the
and very
university system,
rapidly
we will find out these
changes into
corporations,
something
do a little
else,
digging
right?
and find
All
out
of a
really
sudden,
where
it's
they come
not,
from, too.
hey, let's just be nice to people and be accepting of them, even if they're having a lot of emotional and psychological difficulties with this position and everything else, and let's make sure that we're helpful and kind to them. Which I think we should always be helpful and kind to people. But it goes from that to do what we say or else. Pretend that a 200-pound male competing in women's lacrosse doesn't have a biological advantage over all the women in that sport. You better pretend or else. Well, this is stupid. This is idiocy. I see so many leftists who are so pathetic and cowardly that they'll even say things like, I know plenty of women. And whenever a conservative brings this up, this happens all the time. I know plenty of women who could kick your butt. And it's like, no, you really, if you're talking to a 200-pound, 6-foot-tall male who's in reasonable condition in his 30s or 40s or 20s, you don't know plenty of women who could beat him up. Okay, so stop saying this. Stop being an idiot. Men are on average for the same biological structure, meaning the same basic height and even weight. Men are on average double the upper body muscle of women because of biology. All right, this is why it's so important to protect women. It's why it's such an odious thing for anyone to ever lay a hand on a woman. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, but one of them is just that women are not able to defend themselves against even your average woman cannot defend herself with her hands effectively against an average male. Now, all policy is based upon what is generally true. There will always be exceptions in any policy, but to be living in a society where the existence of extremes and exceptions is allowed to undermine policy that is generally to the good and true, then we have what we have right now, where you have madness. I mean, this is absurd. This is insane. Everyone understands. I mean, if I was a decent high school athlete in a few sports, and I rode crew for 2 years in college, and I'm not trying to, this is not about me, but I can just tell you, I played soccer with the women's soccer team in the off season for fun. Sometimes, they'd bring guys over we do these, mixed team, for exhibitions and such. I played basketball with the women's basketball team. I would have been a 3-sport All-American in D3 women's athletics. And that's not bragging, because any guy that I know who was a decent high school athlete, certainly the D3 level, would have been the same thing. 3-sport All-American, maybe a D1 3-sport All-American, quite honestly. And we all know this, right? Any guy listening to this who's reasonably athletic, who is pretty okay at sports at the high school level, I'm not talking about college, you'd be like, yeah, I could have played D1 college athletics. And that's not bragging. This is a biological reality, folks. And you even have the left so insane now that they'll say, well, a transgendered MMA fighter, and that already has happened with Fallon Fox, transgendered MMA fighter, just annihilating women in the ring. And we're supposed to believe that this is like normal and safe and okay. The left will sacrifice women and womanhood and femininity and the female gender. And just ask J.K. Rowling about this. The female gender is being destroyed by the left in the name of expanding gender equality. I know it's quite a conundrum, but that's what's happening. All right, more roll call coming your way now, and I just want to say that I always appreciate everybody writing in and sharing your thoughts here. And make sure you call in too this week. We'll get to voicemails on Friday, maybe even some Thursday voicemails this week. 844-900-2825, 844-900-BUCK. Also, make sure you go to bucksexton.com. I will have an original editorial up, if not tomorrow, certainly by the next day. Going to be writing every week, as well as posting more from the show, pieces written by the team. You need to check it out, bucksexton.com. We want as many of as possible to go into the site on a daily basis. You can also listen to the podcast there. And please do spread the word about the podcast. It feels like everybody and their grandma has a podcast these days. You got these major news networks that are releasing their broadcasts as podcasts. I don't know why anybody would listen to this. I mean, but people do. So more than ever, we really need you to spread the word and get people onto Team Buck because we want to make sure that we stay well into the top 100 podcasts where we currently are and really want to continue to push. We got down to about top 60 at one point about a month ago, I think, and we really wanted to break into the top 50. So we're hoping to do that, and we need your help to do that by just telling people, hey, check out this guy, Buck Sexton. If every person listening to this just on podcast, never mind the huge audience we have on radio, if every person listens on podcast across the country shared it with one person, we would be in the top, certainly the top 50, maybe in the top 25 overnight. So all I need is everybody listening to podcasts to get one person to start listening in with the team, and that would be fantastic. All right, let's get back to it. We were at, let me see, John. Oh, wait, no, we'll do Matthew. I'm sorry. Buck, you're awesome. Never miss the show. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and we try to be awesome here. We're doing everything we can to be as awesome as we can. What do we got here? He says, the other day you said that Gorsuch, oh no, Matt, we already did Matthew. My bad. All right, here we go. John, Buck, if you don't, I don't know if you watched Trump's rally, but I'm assuming you did. When it started, he seemed tired and somewhat defeated. But wow, once he got going, he was unstoppable. It was just what we needed. I loved his shots at the fake news, especially when he just tossed his glass of water to the side to work the crowd. Feels like the tides might be turning back, or in the words of Michael Scott, oh, how the turntables. Yes, indeed, John. Good Michael Scott reference, and God bless, and thank you very much for listening to the show. An honor to have you here with us. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do pass the buck. Get one person that you know in your life, one conservative or just one moderate, one individual who needs a little more political analysis in their life to listen. We'll be back with you tomorrow, same time and place. I know you all miss producer Mark. I'll tell him you said hi. Shields high.